Hi, and welcome to today's class, which is a special getting started with FTCU software, and that is, of course, with me, Trevor Conquergood from Sunset Stitches. And I'd like to start by saying welcome to all of the people that are attending today's class live. We're recording on May the 2nd, 2017, and it's certainly my pleasure to be presenting this class and recording it so that I can share it, I guess, after the fact. So certainly for everybody who's attending today's class live, we have the GoToWebinar control panel, which would be your way to communicate with me during the class. Now, I'm happy to report that I have my beautiful mother, Wendy Conquergood, in the house with me tonight. And thank you very much, Mom, for coming in to help out. Are you there? Can you say hi?
Yes, hello everybody, and thanks, Trevor. Today I'm your beautiful mother.
Huh?
Some days I'm just your wonderful mother, so I kind of like the beautiful part.
You're beautiful and wonderful. Well, anyhow, thank you for, so what that means is if you use the questions box during today's class, my mom will be able to keep an eye on that and communicate with me as needed. Now, that said, I've already prepared what I want to talk about in today's class, and usually I like to say to people, if you have a question or a suggestion for a class topic, send me an email to trevor@sunsetstitches.com. And I guess because I'm going to share this class on my website, there may be people watching it that are brand new to me and my teaching. And so if that's you, then welcome. Certainly hope you enjoy the class. I intend to kind of get right to it. But this is my email address, so anybody who wants to get in touch with me, go ahead and use that email address, trevor@sunsetstitches.com. And so if you haven't guessed by that, my website is sunsetstitches.com. And so go ahead and visit sunsetstitches.com. And it says click here to enter the website, and basically that gives you the different menus like the Floriani workshop where you find the getting started page. And this is where I plan to post the recording of today's class, as well as I'm going to share the recording of today's class with the members of my FTCU workshop because I figure they might like to watch this. So the intention of today's class, just so you know, is to really help people with getting started. And what I mean by that is if you're brand new with the software, then let me give you in the next sort of 60 minutes a little drive through some of the things that I think will be helpful for you to know as you're getting started with your learning of your new embroidery journey with the Floriani Total Control software. And I know you're going to have a wonderful journey, and I'm certainly happy to be a part of that. So here we go. So that's my website. This is Trevor and Walter, and I'm certainly happy to say that I'm friends with Mr. Walter Floriani, and I love his embroidery software. And anyhow, I thought I would share this photo with you and say, if you'd like to see more of my photos that I love to share about me and my little embroidery journey, including photos of Walter and Ricky and Kay and all my embroidery friends, stick around at the end of class. I'll save that till the end because I'd like to get started right away with what I want to present to you guys, which is learning how to use the FTCU software. But I think it would be unfair if I didn't at least tell you that I have a workshop for Floriani software, and I'm sure many of you have heard of it. But these are the workshops. There's number 1, number 2, and then starting in 2017, in fact, starting in May 2017, is workshop number 3. So I'll be sending out information about that to all of the registered members soon. And again, I'll tell you a little bit more about my workshops at the end of the class if you'd like to see some photographs of some of the beautiful designs that we've made in the classes and just get a little taste of what they're all about. But what I will tell you now is if you'd like to learn more from me about, creating embroidery and using the Floriani software, then the best place to start is workshop number 1. And that is a series of recordings. It's over 32 hours of recordings, and PDF printable pages to help you know what's in them all, as well as designs and artwork, and we certainly have fun using the Floriani software. So that's enough about me and my new embroidery club, which you can also learn more about at the end of class. And let's get on with what I wanted to present to you guys, which is about the Floriani software. And I think the first place I'm going to start is actually the RNK distributing website. So I'm going to pop back up to my web browser, and basically I've traveled to the website rnkdistributing.com because that is the wonderful company that produces and sells the Floriani software. And so if you're watching this video, then obviously you either own our software or you are considering it. And either way, this is the place where you're going to find out all kinds of great information. Probably one of the stars of the show right here is the Stabilizer Workbook, because of course Floriani and RNK are famous for their stabilizers for embroidery and embroidery products in general. Beautiful thread, beautiful stabilizers, amazing embroidery software. So when you visit the website for RNK, you'll find that there's lots of helpful links, certainly worth time to look through. They have different brands that they sell, like Quilter Select with Alex Anderson or Jenny Haskins, as well as, of course, the Floriani brand and RNK products just in general. And you'll learn all about their products if you click on the Products tab, and then you can find, for example, our embroidery software is going to be listed here under the Floriani products, embroidery software, and that's where you'll obviously find out more about your Floriani Total Control U software. But that's what today's video is all about. So certainly understanding who RNK are is important, and how to contact them and what the different lines and products is. From what I can gather, I mean, the difference is you know, how they're grouped together. Floriani is obviously embroidery. The Quilter Select, they all have stabilizers. So there's different lines of products that are sold in different stores with different purposes. And RNK is the company that distributes them all. Fantastic company. Now, we'll talk more about RNK later, but let's just hide my website now. And so when I go, now I'm going to switch to using the Floriani software, and I've already started it, so I just pop that up like that. And when you first open it up, I'll just show you what you would normally see is this. It's a little sort of page that comes up that's called My Floriani Today. And there's important information on this page that I just want to highlight. Certainly the big button here, and you know, you see it's Mr. Walter's face and the My Floriani Club. And that's a really big part of being a Floriani user, is the access to this exclusive website. And so this is how you can click to enter. If you aren't a member yet, this is how you can click to request your membership, and they will help you get set up. Certainly, if there's one thing I can say about RNK and Floriani, is they're exceptional at giving support and training. Their website is unbelievable, this My Floriani Club, and I'm certainly happy to be a part of it. Now let me also on the left here, just before I leave this page, you can open a support ticket right here. So if you have any questions that you want to get help with, that's probably the best way to go about it. Of course, there's going to be other ways, and I'm going to review kind of a few of them. If you're wondering about what's been new when you get a new version, this will take you to a page that'll show you the newest versions, or the newest features, I guess, in the latest version, because of course one of the things that's amazing about FTCU is we get free updates for life. And so what that means is you're going to be getting updates, and that's where you're going to find out what's new. There's a forum where you can ask questions and other users can help you. Check out specials, visit the events calendar, click here to ask Kaylee for stabilizer questions, you know, that kind of thing. And down at the bottom, you've got new, open, recently used, you know, new, and help. So these are all the kind of links that come up to you right away when you first get started. And what I would suggest is that, you know, one of the first things you do is join the Floriani Club. And when you click on that, you're going to be asked to put in your email address, and your password so that you can sign in. Yeah, and then now from the club, there are many things to look at, and I'll just highlight a couple of them. Probably I love the blog. So what you can see right here is the software blog, and this is the latest edition written by Marty Sandell. You're awesome, Marty. Thank you. And she does a new blog she's talking about Font Importer, which is a really cool new feature. So Software Lessons blog, this is where you get to see this, and then you can go to the archive blogs and see all the ones that have been put out by Marty and Walter and all the different people that have put out blog posts on the floor for Floriani. But as you can see, looking backwards, there's a lot of blog posts. Same thing with your My Floriani Weekly. Of course, once you join as a member of the club, you'll get an email every week with a new little video or a little information of some kind, which you can see what the current one is by clicking on that. And so right now there's a small video here. And not only that, at the top of the page, I can go here to see the archive of all of the weekly videos and all of the different educational videos. So the archives are extensive. They have lots, again, of different links. These are all little videos we can watch. Tells you when they were posted. Thank you very much, Kathy Quinn and DJ Anderson for doing, and Mark, and I think I've even maybe done one or two of these, but they're a great, little weekly taste of the software. Wonderful job by Floriani supporting us. And of course, you can find out about your account. So if you click on this button, you'll find out like what you're registered. If you make sure you got all your different Floriani programs are kind of locked into your account. And if you ever need help, well, obviously you're going to just ask for help. Software support, and it's going to allow you all different under this link here, software support. You're going to find all kinds of different information, everything from a PDF copy of the user manual, just important links to know about. So that's what I have to say about the websites and such. And let's see, follow along with my slides. So I said My Floriani Today and the My Floriani Club. And one more thing about the My Floriani Club is the monthly designs, because right here you'll get new free embroidery designs every month. And if you're new, you'll want to click here to get all of the monthly designs, and that will actually download all of the free designs going back to the beginning of the club. And this one will simply download the most recent, this set of designs. Beautiful flower and sombrero. Thank you very much for the free designs. So when you get them, whether you download on this month or all designs, I mean, the main difference is obviously the size of the download. It will download for you, and I won't do it live during class, but what I did do is, if I can find the folders, let's see here. I made some pictures. I did it recently. And so when I clicked on install all designs, notice at the bottom it says, it's downloading. Actually, I guess there probably would have been one. It's down at the bottom. So this is going to really depend on your browser and your Windows, what version of Windows and what type of web browser you use. So I can only kind of show you how it looks for me, but it'll be similar, I think, for most people. But for me, using Internet Explorer, this E, and using Windows 10, it shows along the bottom the progress of the download. And then the next picture shows that it's finished, and it shows me the name of it, Free Monthly Designs, bracket 1. You might have more than one of these in your, see how it says open or view downloads? So basically, when you download something from the internet, it'll most likely be saved into a place called downloads. You can usually find it when you browse the folders of your computer, the place called downloads, and everything you've downloaded will be in there. Well, what it's called is Free Monthly Designs, and the little brackets number 1 might even tell me that I've done it more than once, and because if I did it 10 times, this might say brackets 10. if assuming the same file exists. Anyway, I'm going on. So the point is, I said open, and then for me, I own WinZip. So it opened in WinZip. And with WinZip, I simply click on the file, exe, and tell it to unzip. And I don't really have to do too much other than that. Just the keyword is to either unzip, or I think in Windows it might be called extract. And as soon as I told it to do that, it asks me to allow it, yes or no, and of course I better say yes because I asked it to do it. And then this is what it brings up, a little WinZip extractor. And it shows where it's going to go, Floriani, so basically your C drive of your computer, and then a folder called Floriani, and then under that a folder called designs. That's where the free monthly designs get saved to. We can easily find that. I'll show you how to find that. And you click on unzip, or you extract it to that location. But that's what has to happen. And then it tells me that it did 1,365 files were extracted to that location. So that's basically what you can expect it to look like. But if I use, this is, when you use the file folder, Windows Explorer, to browse the folders of your computer, and I'm looking at the folder that I prepared for today's class, but if I move it to C and then look for the folder called Floriani and then the folder called designs, there are my free monthly designs. See that? That's, if I look under that, and my free monthly projects, they now do a monthly project and designs. And if I look in the monthly designs, there's folders for each month. And if I look under the, the month, there's years. And if I look under the years, there's designs. And those designs are here in several formats. Take note, they're here in the most important format, which is the Floriani format, the WAF. They're also here as a JPEG, which is going to be basically a picture of the design, what it would look like if you stitched it out. And then the C2S, well, that's for, because of course, the previous version of the Floriani software was based on the format C2S, so it's kind of grandfathered in with the folder, but the WAF is the one that we need now today. That's what we're using with the Floriani software, so we get the WAF. And that's basically how it works. So April 2010, those are the designs in the folder, etc., etc. So if I look back, like along this little kind of breadcrumb trail of my, directories of the folders of my computer, go back to, for example, where it says free monthly designs, or even just designs. Notice it says angels and animals and dogs. Well, you know what? I could add a folder to there right now. I'm gonna right click right here and say new folder and call it, I don't know, AA class. So I know that AA class means designs that I put into a special folder. Now, I don't have anything in that folder right now. We could quickly put something in that folder just so that you could see what I'm talking about. Let's go back into the April 2010 and get all of those designs, or even just the WAF files. I don't want those C2S's. I don't need them. I'll just copy. So basically right now what I'm doing is I click on this WAF, and then I hold down Control on my keyboard and I click on the next one, and that allows me to select more than one and kind of at random, holding the Control key down while I clicked on all 4 of those, and then I'm going to right click and say copy. And then I come again back up to the top where it says designs, and there's the folder that I just made by right clicking and saying new folder. So now I'm going to double click on it to open it, and I'm going to, in this empty place, right click and say paste. See, I put some designs in there. This isn't really using FTC-U software, this is using Windows, but it kind of all applies, right? We need to do this as embroidery software owners. Sometimes there's more than one way to do these things, but the reason I wanted to do this was for this reason. I'm going to now minimize this and show up and minimize everything and finally go back to the Floriani software and kind of get on with it. So when I'm in the Floriani software, probably one of the first things I'd like to do is a little orientation of the software. And maybe one of the first things I'll go to, if you look at the desktops, so let me just make sure that's my plan, monthly designs. Yeah. Oh, I also wanted to point out before I kind of got too far down the road that there's a digital manual that gets installed with your software. Now, if you're still kind of not out of the box and you're watching this video and you haven't installed it yet, what I'm going to tell you is basically I didn't record anything to show the steps of that, but obviously you're going to stick in the CD and you're going to tell it to run and you're going to follow the yellow brick road and it's going to tell you what you need to do, but it's just a couple of yeses and then it'll install. And then you need to activate it, and there's under the help menu, we have our activator, and that's where you're going to click on your license activator and put in the special code that you've been given by Floriani. That's your license, and that will unlock your software, and you can obviously do that 2 times. And you can even use the license activator to deactivate them and reactivate them. So you can use this to check for updates. So if you want to know what version you have, you click on About, and it will tell you the name of your version, the number, the build, right here, build 3230, copyright Pulse Microsystems, all this information, and blah, 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 blah. And my serial number, don't look. Help, and so now you have the Floriani, other things like, well, the My Floriani Today page, which I showed you. If you want to get that back up again, you can always get it back up. But it's under Help. You can start a support ticket from here. You can get to the Floriani Club from here. And this little link here that says Floriani is actually a link to an online manual. And the online manual can be a great resource. You're maybe not meant to sit down and just read it cover to cover, but you can easily look through the contents of the different chapters, and expand the pages and click on them to see the contents of them. So if you want to know, for example, I went to Getting Started and the system requirements, and it's pretty minimal. If you're looking at buying a computer for Floriani software, it should work on anything. It says it works on Windows 7, 8, 10, and I have it on 8 and 10, so I can concur with that for sure. Minimum 1 gigabyte of hard disk space. Well, that's like nothing. And, it works with 1024 video or better. Well, certainly we're mostly using bigger than that nowadays. So basically anything that was bought in the last decade, no problem. But that's how you can find out more information. You can also search this. So if I come over to the search tab and type in, I don't know, APPLIQUE and hit list topics, it'll list any topics that have to do with using the Applique tool. And you can just click on this to see what the contents of those, different things are. Okay. So again, just check it. Yeah, review my workspace. So from here, where I want to talk to is just, especially if you are brand new, then there's a lot of bright, colorful tools, and it can almost be overwhelming because we don't know what they all are for, and because they're specific to embroidery and you may not have encountered all of these tools before. So perhaps a description of the workspace. Like most things that are Windows programs, there are drop-down menus. You'll notice that there aren't a million drop-down menus, and most of what we use the software for is not found in a hidden menu like this. It's found on the toolbars. That's why there are a lot of bright, colorful tools, because it makes them easy to find and remember, and some of them will become your favorite tools quickly. And we'll go through a few of these tools today, and then in subsequent Getting Started videos, I'll make sure that I catch all of the most important tools. But today I'm just really going to focus on the kind of beginnings of it all. So along the top, you've got your toolbar with New, Open, save. There's a batch converter. You know, that's a tool that we could use to convert 100, take a CD or a DVD of designs and convert them into, you know, from one format into another. And the software will work. You know, we'll talk about formats a little bit. Once I finish this description of the software or the workspace, I'll open some embroidery designs and could just kind of discuss embroidery formats in general. Here you've got your print, you know, option and your cut and copy and paste. And these are just sort of the standard Windows things, undo and redo. You know, those are tools that we'll use a lot. You can turn on your properties box, which is over here. It kind of opens and closes it. This is your program preferences. So I guess all of the different ways that you can control your settings could be found in here. You'll notice along my ruler, it's set in millimeters. If I right click on it, a secondary kind of menu comes up and I could switch it to inches. So you can easily go back and forth between metric and inches, which is to right click on the ruler. Still coming along the top row here, you've got your quick link to Floriani Club. This is a slow redraw tool. Basically, this is Save to Sew, a very, you know, kind of powerful Floriani tool. And then all of these tools towards the right at the top, these are the create something tools. This is where you want to, when you want to create embroidery, this is where you'll go. The next toolbar down starts with our very important and super powerful lettering tools. And with the lettering tools, you've got lettering and monogramming, you've got a font importer, you've got true type font artworks and font play, and all of these tools are very powerful and unique. These are little libraries of artworks, different custom shapes, backdrops libraries, artwork libraries. You've got a wizard hat that can do everything from cross-stitch to photo stitch to converting JPEG artwork into vector artwork, and also it can do converting JPEG artwork into embroidery designs. This is like your instant tool, you know, wizard, 2-3 steps and we've made something. This is for splitting designs. So if you've got large designs you want to use over, you know, more than one hooping, we've got a splitting tool. All of the tools kind of along the center part here are what I would call your modifying and editing. You know, then you move into grouping and arranging, ungroup, combining, break apart, those kinds of tools. So your editing tool group basically. And then over here on the left you have your selecting tool groups, different ways of selecting and editing the software, and all of the on-off buttons for things like your embroidery hoop or your grid background, you know, images, 3D stitches, views. Over on the right you have a properties box, which is going to be the place that we'll put instructions onto the screen, and then a sequence view. And really all of this would be much more attractive if we simply opened an embroidery design. Now, when I go over to the furthest to the right, there's 3 little tabs. They say Browser, Library, and Designs. If I mouse over Browser and click, it'll give me a directory of my computer that I could point to. If I mouse over Library, it takes me very specifically to the folder that we use as our, you know, Floriani My Designs, right? Remember where we saved the free designs to? And notice the one that I made today is not there. That's because I'll need to restart the software before I could see it. Let's just do that right now. I'm just going to click close to close the Floriani software, and then click on the Windows Start menu and click on my Floriani Total Control U link to reopen the software. And so that takes a minute. And so that's a good chance for me to, oh sure, be fast. I was going to say I could get a drink of water. Got it anyway. So my Floriani Club, well, now I can either say open, you know, if you wanted to just go and open a design, I can just simply click on open and it will bring open, it'll bring to me an open file dialog box that I would use to browse through the folders of my computer So there's different ways to, multiple ways to open a design. But if you say open, and even if I cancel this, right, I'll click on a new design. This is an empty embroidery design. There's nothing here. It would require me to make something or add to it. And so that's really kind of the difference. You see, if I come to the library now, well, there's that folder, AA class, that we added earlier, by the way. So that's how you can do that. And there's your free monthly designs and your free monthly projects. Well, if I click on free monthly designs, click on any month in here you want, April 2017, April 2010, you don't see anything until you mouse over to the tab that says Designs. And then it'll show you the designs that are in April 2010, which are the ones that we copied into the AA class designs, aren't they? If you remember. See, if I go back to the Library tab, and then I go to April 2017 and click on Designs, these are the designs that were from April of 2017. Click on the Library tab, click on AA class, the folder I just made today, where I kind of copied and pasted those WAV files, and I go to Designs, and there are the designs in my AA. So that's one thing you might want to do is, have a little folder under your library where you keep certain things, your favorites. And if you like the bunny, you just click and drag to bring your bunny into your workspace. So that is adding this embroidery design into, because in this way I can bring in multiple designs and make a layout. So now I zoomed in like that because I have a wheel on my mouse, and if I scroll it away from me, it gets further away, and if I scroll it in, it gets in. That's me navigating around the screen a little bit. And also, of course, you probably noticed there's a magnifying glass here on the right hand or on the left hand side, and there's a little sort of triangle below it, which means there's the zoom tool or the pan tool, and if I choose the zoom tool, then basically if I left click, I get closer, and if I right click, I get further away. And you can tell I'm using the zoom tool because it's orange and my mouse is a magnifying glass. Now, I could hit escape to stop doing that, and it would go back to the select tool. Or I'll just do it again, click on the magnifying glass. I can click and drag with the magnifying glass to drag to a box that I make when I have that magnification tool, or again, right click to zoom away. So you can use that to, view your design, the view tool, and when you're done, you either hit escape or you just click back on the select tool. And the select tool, this is the, kind of the most important tool in the toolbox, really, because you would use that to do a huge variety of things, including, just like it says, clicking on things to select them, and there's the design of the basket of eggs, and the bunny is in here, and maybe you were going to stitch this out and it seemed like the basket was too large in relationship to the bunny. So certainly the bunny's eggs, well, whatever. You get what I'm saying, right? You could make the perspective be like there's a little basket beside the bunny that the bunny was capable of holding or something. I don't know. Anyway, to do that, let me go slowly. I'm going to click on the magnifying glass and click and drag a box to get back closer to my design. And then click on the select tool. If I click on the bunny gets selected, and I can tell he's selected for multiple reasons, mainly because he turns blue, right? And also because he gets a box around him with all these different little icons and symbols around it, which again, to a new person is going to be like, what? Because they all mean something. Every one of them does. And if you're brand new, then you haven't learned what any of those things mean yet. And they don't even exactly matter. But if you wanted to resize a design, this is how you could do it, because the box that comes around it is called your transformation box. And you can literally grab on a corner handle of it and click and drag to change the size of the embroidery, and notice the little thinking button goes on. That's because the software is generating new stitches, you know, based upon the embroidery design that we opened, which is basically, you know, all of the original stitches get regenerated to fill in. It basically maintains the densities. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So that when you resize things, they still have the same stitch spacing at the new sizes. So you can make them bigger or smaller by just clicking and dragging. If you grabbed on a side angle, you would actually be stretching them to have a new proportions. So maybe you want to make the basket look a little more wider. There you go. Yeah, all of the other little symbols around here, well, this is going to be to delete the object. This is to go into shape mode. Certainly not something we'll be talking about in today's class, but certainly something that you'll want to learn about in a future class. Locking the object, which would make it be basically not able to be selected. It would kind of set it. You can always come along in your sequence view. So to kind of finish, before I get, see, I love, this is the teacher in me wanting to describe everything. We don't feel I've even fully described the test, the description of the workspace, just to finalize it all. I have a properties box and a sequence view on the right. And now that I've opened up a couple of embroidery designs, they're full of information. In fact, if I click off, notice that there's nothing in the properties box. The properties box is reflected by what's been selected. So if I click on the bunny, that's what's selected. Now, there's a lot of things that are selected. The entire design is selected. So by default, when I use the library to drag in designs like this, they come to me grouped together. So if I click on them, I'm going to select the entire design. If I went through and, for example, here in the sequence view, I can see the colors of the bunny. See how they all turn blue when I select that bunny? And if I click off of the bunny, they all don't turn blue anymore. They're back to just sort of white. Well, if I browse through those and I see there's the pink egg and I just click on that, see how I'm just selecting that pink egg? Now look down at the bottom. Here's all of the colors in our design. There are 25 different shades that have been used between this bunny and this basket. And below that, this is my color thread chart. And this is actually my thread chart that I made. And so you probably, well, not probably, unless you're a member of my workshop where I shared it with everybody, you won't have this thread chart. But the thread charts, you can use this button right here to choose any thread chart you want. You know, and so basically I can scroll through. If you want, obviously you're going to have Floriani polyester thread, right? So you choose Floriani poly, and look, there's just hundreds. I can use these little buttons here to scroll through hundreds of shades of beautiful Floriani polyester threads. Now, if you're a thread addict like me, you might own more than just all of the Floriani polyester threads. You might also own the Floriani cotton threads, or the Floriani metallic threads, or the premium threads, or the variegated and mixed threads, or you may have other people's brands of threads, and that is fine. We love all the thread, and so basically you choose the brand, the color chart that you want, and then that's what you can pick from. So if I choose Floriani, let's say color spectrum, the new 120 colors in a box, so it's a special 120 set, but it's got a nice color spectrum. And then notice when so I'm just going to click off. If I try and click on the bunny, it selects everything. But at any time, I could always, on the top here, notice the tool that's right there that says ungroup. I'm going to click off. See how it's gray? Whenever a tool's gray, it means you need to do something before you can use that tool. And in this case, I need to select something that's been grouped to be able to turn on the ungroup tool, which I could now click on to ungroup all of those colors, which means now I could just click on the purple egg to select it. And notice when I click on the purple egg, the color in the design gets shown right here. It's the Floriani, violet. And notice that it also highlights on the bottom the closest or the exact match, in this case, color. So let's say, for example, you used a different thread chart. Maybe you had somebody else's thread, so you went to Madeira 40. And so the numbers down at the bottom are your Madeira numbers. They're no longer Floriani numbers. But the design is still in Floriani numbers. We haven't changed the design. However, if I click on this pink egg to select that color, it shows me that it's this color 10 in the design, and it also shows me the closest color match in the Madeira colors. So it does the color matching for you just by clicking on a color. So there's your yellow egg. If you're like, I wish it was a green egg, you can click on the yellow egg and see it's that color 5, and then you can look in your color palette below. So if I like my color palette, the one that I made, this is my own custom color palette. It's my favorite 48 shades of Floriani thread, or just basically a nice little simple digitizers palette. And then I can say, well, I'll make it this color of green. So by clicking on that color green, I made the egg that color green. See, choose the purple egg, click on blue. Now it's a blue egg. So you can recolor your designs pretty easily. So let's talk again about opening designs. This is the browser combined with the Designs tab, right? So when you click on Browser, you can tell it where in your computer you want to look. Select the folder, go to your FTCU workshop number 2, class number 12, and then you have to go to the My Designs tab to see what's in that, folder. So that's one way. And remember, when you bring them in like this, they come in to this workspace. You're adding to the existing, design. If I say open, again, I can browse to the exact same FTCU workshop number 2, class number 12, and I can open the draft that we worked on. This is like one of the most recent things we were doing. We were converting artwork into embroidery designs, and there's like a little challenge, the baby animals challenge. Sorry, I needed water again. Now, so when you use the open tool, you can browse anywhere in your computer. If I look on my desktop, and I'm going to go to a folder that's like, if you were a member of the Trevor Conquergood and Friends Embroidery Club, this is my new embroidery club, where on the new members DVD, the one that you might see at an event, at a Floriani event, this is how you, if you bought that DVD, you could join Trevor Conquergood and Friends Embroidery Club. Well, these are the folders that are on the DVD, and then it comes with a monthly download, so it's basically a year's membership. So here's the workshop, here's the first download of the year. So this is where we're at. In May will be the second one. Now, here is the new member DVD, and here are the folders. So if I look in the folder, for example, Mag's Meandering with the Father Christmas and the crochet doily, there's additional folders for the video, because there's a recording with me and Maggie talking about the designs, and there's photos, images to see of the designs, and then there's the designs themselves, which come in multiple different embroidery formats. And so you would choose the format that was right for you. But I wanted to point out, if you click on the type down at the bottom of this open box, is the types of formats that you can choose. So you can choose, of course, the Floriani WAF file. Those are the ones that we would make with our Floriani software, but you might purchase designs from other sources. And then, of course, at some point, you'll want to save them to your embroidery machine to stitch them out. So we'll talk about save in a minute, but when you go to open, you can open all of these formats. So if you have a disk or a download that comes in a Janome Jeff or a Brother PES or, Husqvarna HUS or VIP or whatever kind of format that you want, Bernina Art, these are the ones that we can open. So quite a list. Tajima, DST, and so on, Melco, EXP, all the popular ones, Singer, EX or XXX, etc., FAF, PCS. So all when it says all designs, it simply sees them all. If I tell it to just show me the PES file, I'll only see the designs in PES. If I click on the design, it will give me a preview of the design. Before I say open, there's an important question to consider, and it's, do you want to convert this embroidery design into outlines? It's a little bit of magic that happens when you open an embroidery design. The software can read the stitches of the PES file and make outlines from it. And I won't delve into it too far today. It's one of my favorite topics, is to understand sort of when to check this on and when to not check this on. Because if I check this on, the software will process those stitches of that beautiful Father Christmas of Maggie's into, objects that could then be, regenerate new stitches. If you don't want to change, here's the hint. If you don't want the stitches that you have in existence changed, uncheck this. Then it will simply open up the design in a more simple kind of stitch mode. Does that make sense? So it's a question, on or off. But with a big, beautiful Father Christmas, if you simply wanted to open it up and see how it's stitched out and then save it to a different format, you don't really have to process it. That said, you got a beautiful design, you want to make size changes to it, this is the way we do that. So we'll learn more about that, but for now, let's just open the Father Christmas and show, okay, so now you've got this design, and again, it's not grouped like it was over here. When I open a design, and what happens with when you don't tell it to convert to objects to outlines, it simply makes all of the stitches of that color be selected together. When you look in the sequence view, you'll see, if you clicked on, this looks like his face, right? If I clicked on the little plus beside that, it just shows me the whole group of stitches. Now, it would be different if we converted those stitches into objects. Then we would get little pieces that would come up. But one of the great things about using the FTCU software to open your embroidery designs is when you're going to stitch them out, you can watch them sew out. This is the slow redraw tool. You can see it's turned on because it's orange, right? If I click on it again, it turns it off. See the little color bar is missing. If I click on it again, see the little color bar? Those are the colors of our design. This design has 17 different colors in it. And you can see how they sew up here. And if I click on this button right here, simulate sewing, it'll start stitching them out. And you can speed it up if you want to, or slow it down if you need to. And if that's not fast enough, you could just pause it, find the little point in the design, the playhead, so to speak, where you are, click on it and drag, and look, I can just scrub through the design and watch it stitch out and go, oh, that's how it goes, right? And then exactly when it says red, which red is it? Is it Santa's hat, or is it Santa's gloves, or are they the same? Or, and so that is one of the big reasons to open an embroidery design in your embroidery software, is that you have an expanded ability to understand what each color is. I can click on the color in the design here to see it highlights that whole color. Lets me see what it is. Oh, light blue. I could click on the color in the design. Oh, there, it's Santa's beard. I want to make that a different color than the rest of his hat and gloves. I want to make that more of an off-white or a beige or something. So I'll come over here and change the color. So it just changes. This is the 3D view here. See, notice how this really looks different when I turn on the 3D view. Basically it gives the thread the thickness that it really has, so that when you imagine it stitched out, you can see what that would look like. And if you turn the 3D view off, it allows you to see the thread with more clarity and more precision. And if you zoom in, you can see exactly how these stitches go. And if you click on the color in here and you say, oh, that's the beige is that, and this is that color. And you can easily use this to help you find what, exactly are you going to be stitching out. So when you open an embroidery design, it opens a new tab. So notice that the draft, remember I opened the draft earlier, that's still open. And then even the design with the bunny rabbit, that's still open. Make sense? Okay, well, a little bit more time today. I don't want to keep classes too long, and I'm going to show some pictures at the end, so that'll be your bonus time for sure, because I have quite a few pictures to show. But what I want to show, so we talked about opening designs and formats a little bit. We talked about changing colors a little bit. We could talk about adding embroidery hoop and a little bit more about selecting, sizing, and moving, because I think to me that's a really, before we even, when you're new, and I promise to talk more about creating embroidery in this special series that I'm recording called Getting Started. Isn't it fun for me to kind of return to the beginning, after 2 good years of teaching the Floriani software, and the workshops that we've done have been fabulous and we've learned so much. I wanted to return to the beginning and just do a few classes just to try and help people out with getting started. And I'm going to hit new design. So see, I've got tab, design number 2 is an empty tab. They'll get a name, like this one says design number 1 because I haven't really saved it, right? I brought the monkey. I brought the bunny rabbit and the basket of eggs and my monogram into this workspace here. I've paid no attention to my embroidery hoop or how it'll sew out. Here's my tools to select an embroidery hoop or turn one on. If I choose to select one, it allows me to tell it what kind of machine I have. If you have a brother machine, you choose the PES format, and then it allows you to select from different PES format shaped hoops. You can click on, JEF to get JEF hoops, etc., etc. And, choose the hoop you want and put it on your screen, and then you say, oh, well, okay, maybe it would fit in my hoop, but I would need to click on these things. Now remember, I ungrouped that bunny rabbit. I didn't ungroup the basket. So it's going to be easy to move the basket. But to move the bunny rabbit, remember I ungrouped them because I wanted to play with the colors of the eggs. Well, now I'm going to need to click and drag to select more than one thing. I can click and drag, and whatever's fully in the box gets selected. See that? So you can click and drag to bring the bunny over. But this one, because it's grouped, I can just click to bring it in. Now, I can group the bunny back again. I click and drag to select all those pieces. And then here's the group tool right beside where the ungroup tool, which is no longer available because there's nothing grouped. But because I have multiple things selected, I could group. So I'll just group them back together again. And now basically I can click on the bunny with one click to get all those things. Click on the basket and click on my monogram, bring that in, and ta-da, now it's ready to go on the back of a shirt. So maybe you want to align all of those things to center in your hoop. So I clicked and dragged to kind of select it all. And then this is an alignment tool here. If I click on it, see there's all different types of alignments. I'm not going to go through them all today, but you can play with them. Align left, align right, top, bottom, centers, vertical, horizontal, centers to rulers, which would mean center to your center. This will center the objects to themselves, so that's not what we want either. We want this one, center to rulers. So basically it moves it to the center of your embroidery hoop, ready to go. What kind of machine do you got? I'm set up for the Janome MB4 or MB7, so I'll select File, Save As. Now, it allows me to save it to a folder of my computer of my choice. Save in. Where am I going to save it in? I could look on my desktop. I could find the folder that I made for today's class, which is FTCU, getting started, number 1. Right there, save a design and call it, you know, Trev Class 1. Save. So now that's what it's called, Trev Class 1. WAF. But I want to stitch it on my Janome. So I need to go File, Save As, and change that WAF to a Jeff. Trev Class 1 Jeff. Save. Does that make sense? So now in that folder, let's look in the folder for today's class. No, that's not it. Thanks, Windows. Let's see. Right over here, Windows folder. It's on my desktop. So let's go to my desktop. And I called it FTCU Getting Started number 1. And in there I have Trev Class WAF. Well, that's the one that if I wanted to make edits to the design, I would come back to this. But if I want to sew it, I need to take Trev Class 1 Jeff and I need to put it onto my USB stick that I'm going to put into my embroidery design machine. And there's the USB stick right there. I would save it onto that, that I could take over to the Janome. Now, go to design number 2 that I made that's new, go back to my library, look in AA class designs, and then look at the designs folder to see what's in it. Oh, that is not what's in it. Library, let's see, April 2010, AA class. Okay, now it's highlighted, I can see. Designs, yeah. So basically, if you click and drag a design into your workspace, it comes in, and it comes in automatically grouped. So you're going to click on it, and it'll be all one thing. If you want to work on it individually, you click on Ungroup. Now you can select, just the little parts of the design, and there's lots of little parts. I mean, if you look at over here in the sequence view, if I right-click, I can tell it to collapse, make everything small, so that I can just see the colors, of the design. Click on them even to, see how it stitches out. Another way to learn the colors of the design is remember the slow redraw tool. I can go, oh, it goes light green, medium green, dark green, lightest, kind of cream, white, gray, yellow, brown, 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 pink, 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 pink. Make sense? So if I take that select tool and I click and drag a box, whatever I drag around the box gets selected. And so if I'm really careful, I can just barely pick up this pink butterfly, because see how right down at the bottom of that selection box, there are, let me get closer to that, there are parts of that leaf that are covered by that selection box. So what I can tell you is it doesn't select the leaf because it's not fully in the selection box. So look, I've got my select tool. I start up here and I click and drag, and I make a box that goes to the edge of the pink butterfly, and then I bring it down to the bottom, and I stop, and I can see that the butterfly is fully in my box, and I can see that the tips of that green leaf are in the box. But when I let go, it selects the pink butterfly, but not the green leaf, because the selection box wasn't big enough to pick up the full piece of the green leaf. It only picks up what's fully in the box. So you can sometimes get away with a little, easy pickup like this. Now, once I've got my butterfly picked up, I could, for example, make another butterfly and make a little butterfly layout. So lots of ways to do that. If you click on the copy and paste tools at the top, so for example, if I click on copy and then click on paste, it kind of looks like nothing happened. But what happened is the butterfly is right on top of the first one. So be careful. Don't hit paste again. Don't go paste, 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 because you'll be putting butterflies right on top of each other. So it's one of the reasons why, and see if I click and drag to move them off. There was 2 butterflies. It's just that he was put right on top of the other one. The new way of doing it, see, now that I've got a butterfly over here, it's much easier to click and drag to select them, is this one here. The little copy tool, just like, remember I said earlier, when I click on something, it gets the transform box around it, and outside of that transform box there are other tools. One of them, this one for example, is a zoom. Well, guess what? If I click on it, it'll zoom right to that butterfly. Zoom out a little bit. This one is a copy, and if I click on it, it'll copy that butterfly, but it moves it off a little bit. It's got an offset. So then you can notice that you've done it and not, but now I've made 3 butterflies, and this little blue handle allows me to rotate the butterflies. These little green handles up here are for rotating as well, and these ones are for flipping, like vertically and horizontally. And I can move my butterflies anywhere I want to, and I can resize them. I could also, when I have something selected like this butterfly, use this tool here. This is the duplicate tool. And when I click on the duplicate tool, what you can't see is that this butterfly is now attached to my mouse, and if I click and drag, I make a new butterfly. And the further I drag, the bigger that butterfly gets, and the sort of less far I drag, the smaller that butterfly gets. And so I can easily make a bunch of butterflies in a kind of neat and interesting swarm of them. So you might want to turn an embroidery hoop on. So go to your select hoop, tell it you use a Brother PES, pick a nice big 240 by 360 or hoop. Okay, that all looks like it fits just fine, right? All I have to do is select everything and use this tool to move everything to the center of my embroidery hoop. Maybe you don't want it at the center of your hoop. Maybe you want it to be at this edge of it. There could be reasons. Whatever. Put it where you want it within the embroidery hoop space. Now, so I made all these butterflies. Copy and paste. Duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. Look what's happened to my sewing sequence. Right now it does, if I watch it stitch out, it does all the light green, all the medium green, all the dark green, all the white, gray, yellow, brown, brown, brown. Then it's light pink, medium pink, rosy pink, dark pink, light pink, medium pink, rosy pink, dark pink, 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 pink. And if you're sewing this out on a Brother Dream Machine or a Destiny, then you're really annoyed with me because I've made all these unnecessary color stops. So of course, this is what we use this tool here for. It's called Color Sort. And if I click on Color Sort, it's going to basically look through the design and say, Trevor, I can reduce this design by 20 colors. And I say, okay. And so now what's happened is, if we watch the design stitch out, it'll do all the greens and the whites and the grays and the browns, and then it'll do all of the light pink for all of the butterflies, then return to do all of the medium pink for all the butterflies, and the rosy pink, and then the dark pink for each butterfly. So it combines all the color stops. And that's just a simple example of why and how we might use the Floriani software on a kind of everyday basis. Now, maybe one more good topic before we move on for today. So we kind of talked, I guess I'm always forgetting to move my slides over. We looked a little bit at the slow redraw tool and the color sort tool. And the next thing I just want to talk about is just, this is kind of how it works. FTCU, I mean. This is how it works. I'm going to start a new design. And there's nothing in my sequence view. It's an empty embroidery design. Beautiful rainbow color palette at the bottom, tons of tools at the top, all kinds of little libraries of artwork. You can create embroidery from any source. The different sources will require you to follow different paths. If you have vector artwork, the software is based on artwork. It works on artwork. In other words, this is a custom shapes library. If I click on it, it's going to show me the contents of it. And if I click on an image in here, it'll put it on my screen. And that is in shape of an apple. It's pink. I might like a red apple or a green apple. And here in the right, if I look in the sequence view and I can see the green apple and it has a little plus beside it, if I click on the plus, it shows me that it's artwork. You see? It's artwork. Click on it to select it, right? Select tool, click on it to select it. Hit the copy tool. See, I have 2 green apples. They're both pieces of artwork. See, I can select a piece of artwork. Now it doesn't turn blue like it did with my embroidery designs. When I was over here and I selected a butterfly, it turned blue because it highlights embroidery stitches. So here we don't have any embroidery stitches yet. This is artwork, and basically FTCU software is vector graphic software that's supercharged with embroidery stitches. And the embroidery stitches are down at the bottom. Let's make one of these apples red. So now that I see what happened when I did that, let me hit undo. See 2 green apples. When I click on one of them and then click on red, it changes its color. And so therefore in the sequence view, we've got the red one, which is first, and the green one, which is second. And because the green one is second, it's on top of the red one. Can you see that? Layering. The red one is still all there. If I click on that red one and move it over, it's all there. It's just tucked under the green one. If the sequence was different, this is the sequence. If I right click on the green one and tell it to move this to be first, guess what? Now the red one's on top of the green one. So that's kind of the purpose of the sequence view. It has multiple purposes, really. It's a way to help us with selecting. With the select tool, we can click on the red apple to select it, or the green apple to select it. Or we can click and drag to select them both. Maybe you got a special yellow apple and you just turn them both into one same color. So this is me playing with the 2 apples as artwork. And you could even, let's go back, undo. There's the red apple and the green apple. Well, if you didn't want the green apple, if you want to turn these into embroidery, we're going to look to the bottom. And we have all of these different styles of embroidery. So let's just make another apple, bring it over here, and click on the very first one, which is run. And guess what? Run is an outline. It goes forward, 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 like the straight stitch of your sewing machine. And notice when I clicked on run down here, it made, see how these ones say artwork and artwork, but this one says run. And then look up here, the properties box has a tab called run. If I click on the red apple, the tab has artwork, where my choices are either to fill it or not fill it, and then this is the outline of it, and how wide do you want that to be. That's what you do with the artwork tab. Transform tab, so here I could resize the red apple more mathematically, not visually, like this is more visual. But with here, I could say I want it to be exactly, it's got maintain aspect ratio turned on, which means it won't stretch it. So I could say I want it to be exactly 5 inches. And then it's going to be exactly 5 inches now in width, 4.89 tall. Unless I turn maintain aspect ratio off and tell it to be exactly 5 by 5, and now I've got an exact 5 by 5 apple here. This one is run stitches. I can still go to the transform tab and tell it to make it 5 by 5, right? The difference is this one goes run, forward, forward, forward around it. This one doesn't have any embroidery stitches at all. It's simply a piece of artwork, which if we were to make an embroidery design at this point would not be included. It's not part of the stitches. It's part of our WAF file, because our WAF file is based on artwork. And the little run stitch that I made here, I still have all these other choices. It can be any of these styles of embroidery. It's like we could spend all afternoon just looking at them all. The motif run line, when I turn that one on, it makes a pattern along the line. And if I click again with the select tool and then look at the run tab now, it doesn't say run anymore. It says motif run. and it gives me a little pattern box to pick the motif pattern that's going to get put along there, and then the pattern size and spacing. So if you want to make them smaller, see that? Choose a different pattern altogether. Yeah. So that is what kind of how it works, right? It's based on artwork. I like to call it artwork-based embroidery or object-based or segments. These are all every little piece is a segment of the design. So right now our design has a green piece of artwork, shape of an apple, red piece of artwork, shape of an apple, and a red motif run line in the shape of an apple. If you wanted to stitch and fill these two apples and you didn't want the green apple to be under the red apple, we have artwork shaping tools. So for example, if I select them both, up at the top here, suddenly the trim, weld, and intersect tools become available. With trim, the red apple basically takes a bite out of the green apple, and therefore the green apple will, if I was to click on this green apple and click on the embroidery fill or standard fill tab, it would fill into that shape. You know, so let's hit undo, and then select those two apples and click on the embroidery fill tab, and it'll fill them in with stitches, but the green one will not be underneath the red one. They'll be, you know, sort of kiss cut like that up to each other. So that's how it works. It's what I call artwork-based embroidery. Go ahead and play with, you know, selecting things and trying different styles of stitches. Now we've gone to a steel stitch. So basically it takes the shape and goes back and forth in a zigzag fashion. And then, you know, one of the things that I really love to talk about, and this is where when we do our next video, we'll pick up where we leave this one off. We'll talk about stitch quality. And, you know, if you take an apple and you want to stitch it out in this apple outline, doesn't it need some understitching? You know, and so that's part of the learning about creating embroidery is the principles of embroidery designs. And in general, notice that when every time I change the style of embroidery, so notice now in my sequence view, the green apple says it's a fill. It's no longer artwork, it's a fill. Here I can see everything on my screen if I double click on the magnifying glass. See that? It didn't even select it. It just tap, tap, and then it shows everything on your screen, and you're still in the selecting tool. So the green fill, look, it's got a fill tab with, yeah, patterns, stitch length, density settings, types of fill patterns, a tab for underlay, the type of understitching that is in this design. You could add to it. It's got a perpendicular right now, which if I look really closely to, can you see the perpendicular underlay that goes this way to support the stitches that go that way? All right, but I can choose those myself, underlay, contour, apply, click on this one, underlay, you know, add an extra layer, put a full lattice underlay underneath it. Take a look, see what I'm talking about? You control that. Now, you don't have to control it. We have the save to sew option. You know, so if I say new design, grab a piece of artwork, grab a bear, choose to fill them in with thread, he comes with the default settings. You know, whatever your software is kind of set to. Usually the default is like a standard fill, pattern 1, stitch length 3.5, density of 0.5. It's just standard kind of fill settings. And what other variable is there? You know, we're talking a lot about FTCU. Well, that's all we're talking about today. But you know, as the embroiderer, going forward from here, we want to go onto a piece of fabric. We want, and that is a variable in your design choices, because I might do things differently for a polar fleece vest than I would a baby onesie. And the software can help you with that. See, it says it's got 7,050 stitches. If I click on this, right up at the top, see it says, tells me the size of the design. It tells me that it's got this many stitches in it. Well, if I click on Save to Sew, this allows you to choose the style of fabric, the type of fabric that you want to stitch on. So if you choose fleece, and it's got a choice, I digitized or I didn't digitize. Well, if it's a design that you bought from Trevor Conquergood and Friends Embroidery Club, choose I didn't digitize. But if it's a design that you bought or that you made yourself, choose I digitized. And then, do you want the FTCU software? I like to call this the Walter effect. All the family recipes that Walter collected over the years, saved and put into the Floriani software. You click to turn it on. You can uncheck any sub choice, but it's apply new densities, apply new underlays, apply new pull compensations, apply all other settings. Do you want the Walter effect? You know, the full effect, yes. And then this whole convert to outlines, we're saving that for another day because it's kind of like in the beginning where I said this would be more about, this has nothing to do with the bear, you know, in the design that we made. It has to do with working with other people's designs that you maybe purchased, and we'll continue with that thought on another class. So I click next, and suddenly Floriani stabilizer suggestions, I like to call this the K. Brooks effect. We get the suggested recipe on how to get a perfect sewing result on fleece. Hoop the stabilizer and prepare. So basically, she wants me to use Floriani Perfect Stick, and I'm going to hoop up the stabilizer and peel back the sort of wax paper to make the sticky side available so that I can stick my fleece vest onto it, top it with heat and gone, of course, and you know, you could even print your instructions off. And when I say finish, it asks me to save the design. Now, you might wonder why it would save, but you see, we're creating a new version of the design. By using this tool, we allow the software to change it. And so you may want to have your original, you may want to have, this is the bear for fleece, and then you might want to have, this is the bear for t-shirts, and this is the bear for denim jackets, you know, because conceivably things could be done differently. So you call it whatever you want. Blah, 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 in today's folder, and save. Now, take a look at the top. It says the design has 8,900 stitches. So the stitch count went significantly up, didn't it? And if I take a look, can you see, if I just hit undo and then redo, can you see all the differences? So that is what Save to Sew is about, and it's certainly about helping you learn. You know, when you're just getting started and you create a little design of a bear and you click on fill and you want to stitch them out and you don't know what kind of underlay to use, you could come in here, tell it the type of fabric you're sewing on, and let the software give you suggestions. In time, you develop your own opinions, and that's when we take the control in the software settings ourselves and say, I want a full lattice for this because it's going on fleece, you know, and apply that. And you see that that's the bulk of the new stitches right there. It's just the extra underlay that got added. And there's other things that the software did, like pull compensation and things that, you know, when you're first learning about, that is the kind of nice thing of it, right? Is the software can help you with certain settings like that. So that's kind of how it works. It's our artwork based, and all of these are different styles of embroidery. I just showed you the standard fill. This is a motif, or a fancy fill, sorry. A fancy fill makes it, you won't see it until I turn it on 3D. And then you can see that it makes a pattern. So now in my properties box, I've got the fancy fill and the patterns, and I can choose from a large list of patterns, and that becomes, the decoration in the background of the fill. The next one over is called the motif fill, and like similar to fancy fill, you get to choose the pattern, but now it's going to fill it in a more of an open style of stitching like this. See? So you get to choose kind of how to fill the bear in. And not only that, the size of the pattern too, right? So it's this pattern set at 4. If I make that 4, let's say a 6, and hit apply, it'll make it 50% bigger basically. So that's where I wanted to leave it for today, just to kind of go through the general how it works, help you guys get started. The next class, we'll continue to talk about how it works, how to control the properties, how to get good, sort of beautiful sewing results. We can begin to learn about artwork. In other words, can I take the JPEG picture from the internet? What about a photograph of my friend's, artwork or maybe your child's drawing? And how could you convert that into thread? And there's lots of ways. And certainly I welcome everybody to join with me in the FTCU workshop. I know you'll love learning from me. If you aren't already, and this is simply your first steps, in which case, welcome to the club. This is going to now officially be my suggested first step with me. Even for people that join FTCU workshop number 1, I'll say, watch the getting started classes first, then do FTCU workshop number 1, then do FTCU workshop number 2. And if you love it as much as I know you will, I'm sure you'll be with me with FTCU workshop number 3 in no time. The way it works, this is my beautiful family, Lorna, Loren, Nicholas, Reese, and we are obviously at Disneyland because Saskatoon does not look like that. I'll tell you a little bit more about FTCU workshop and how it works in a minute. But just in general, you're going to purchase that from Floriani. And any Floriani dealer can order a copy for the workshop. They always have it at the special events. I know all the educators love to recommend it. And basically, you get the first 5 hours of recording on the DVD. And then inside the case, there's a little redemption code. You come to my website to join with that. And once you do, I will send you all of the recorded classes for workshop number 1. Workshop number 1 was recorded and is now available for immediate download. And workshop number 2 is just being completed now. We just recorded the 12th class, which means the live classes for this year will be FTCU workshop number 3. For people that are following along. But the concept is you want to watch the recordings. If you have questions, you can email, but you watch the recording, you can pause the recording, try it, rewind it, watch it again, try it again. Go through the printed notes. I tell you, it's for easy review. I tell you at what time of the class this happens and that happens. Anyhow, let me share with you guys a little bit more about, before I let you go for today, I've got some pictures and then I've got some designs from the club. So stick around if you're interested. If not, thank you very much for watching today's recording. I hope you enjoyed the Getting Started with Trevor Conquergood workshop. Now, so like I said, this is my family, and here I am. This is me, 1984, when I very first started to learn to create embroidery, and I love these old pictures. I always show these when I travel to my live events, so if you ever get to come and see me live, you might get to see these pictures, or some of them like these ones. This is my dad, George Conquergood, and he's really the man that started our family off on our embroidery. He had worked in textiles his whole life. He'd sold textiles. In this picture, we're living in small town Alberta, Canada, and he is managing a garment factory on a First Nations reservation, and it's obviously parade day because he's all decked out in cowboy and Indian clothes. I mean, this was the 1980s, and that was the Pekingese garments Gene Express van. But that's where we learned about embroidery, and that's why I like to share this, because my dad bought his first embroidery machine in 1979. He went to the Bobbin Show in Atlanta, Georgia, to come home with a very cool machine for the factory. And within a very short period of time, he'd started his own embroidery company called Westcrest Embroidery Company, where the quality goes in before your name goes on. And here's my beautiful mother, Wendy, and my dad, George, and me, Trevor, and aren't we cute? And we're beginning our little embroidery adventure together. And anyway, aren't you cute, Mom, standing in front of, this is a 24 head embroidery machine. I think it had 6 needles or something like that. I love how young my mom looks in that picture, and certainly as beautiful as ever. I also think it's interesting to see the paper tape library on the wall in the background. Those are all the embroidery designs for this machine, which, by the way, this machine was called Big Mother Tucker. Isn't that right, Mom?
Yeah, and there's a reason for that. It was called Big Mother Tucker or something like that.
Oh, really? Well, I wasn't always in the production room. I had the benefit of being in the digitizing department, but I always love to tell people about the very first machine that we got landed on our driveway in Pincher Creek in a big wooden crate, and we nicknamed that machine Taz, because we thought the Tasmanian devil was going to come busting out of that crate, you know, at any time. And anyhow, my dad became an agent and actually started to sell these big, beautiful embroidery machines. And in the 1980s, my dad sold commercial embroidery machines, and we had a beautiful embroidery company in Saskatoon. And here I am at my desk pretending to shave because I believe it's a Christmas celebration and I've been given a gift. But what I love about this picture is the big old digiboard with the artwork, big old draft artwork taped onto it, you know, ancient IBM dinosaur computers, paper tape winding machines, paper tape punching machines. There's Mom sitting at an old Meistergram single head embroidery machine with some kind of a DOS-based monitor on it. There's me a few years later still working on my big, beautiful board, because, of course, eventually embroidery software transcended to be what we call on-screen digitizing, didn't it? You know, we don't use a big board like this anymore. And that said, you might have one. You know, I have a pen monitor, which is a display that you can touch a pen to. In other words, my mouse. I have multiple types of mouses on my computer. I've got the one that you think of that has left click and right click and a wheel, but I can pick up a pen and move the mouse around my screen with my pen because I purchased a pen monitor, and that's very much like an old digiboard. Same thing with the Wacom tablets. That's also very much like a digiboard. They become an extension of your computer. And in the earliest of days of digitizing, that's how it was done. You had a big digiboard and the designs. There's my very first dongle. You know, the first dongle was a 5 1/4 floppy diskette, and the second dongle was like a 3.5-inch floppy. And then, of course, they became serial port dongles, and then they became USB dongles. And, you know, the good news is today, if you're wondering what a dongle is, we don't use one with the Floriani software. We simply allow you to license it and register it through the internet, and you've got your dongles, basically your serial number. Anyway, that's a paper tape. I still carry around one paper tape with me when I travel, and I bring an old draft and stitch outs of my old designs from the old days. But yeah, so that's it. And then it was really a family business. I learned about embroidery working with my mom and my dad. And like I said, Dad sold the machines, and we had our embroidery company, and we also started to do the designs. So I became a professional designer from a very young age. And when my dad sold, you know, embroidery machines, we got new clients. That the company was called Stitchitize. And here's me and my dad in New Orleans wearing our Mardi Gras masks, promoting our super stock designs, because Stitchitize was one of the very first companies to sell stock designs. And we've traveled around the world to present, our embroidery collection and attend different embroidery conferences. And anyway, I love growing up in a family business, working with my mom, my dad, and I'm a second generation digitizer. I learned in a family business, and there's a nicer picture of me and my dad at a different conference, and here's me and my mom and my dad, and don't we look shiny and pretty, and we're all dressed up with flowers, and we're going for a factory tour in Thailand, have a Janome sewing machine factory or something like that. So it's been a wonderful adventure. Over 30 years of creating embroidery, and in 1987, when I thought I was all grown up, I left the nest and moved back to Toronto with my girlfriend, because originally we were from Toronto, and I moved there as an adult and worked for the company that my dad was actually selling the machines for McPherson. And they sold a software called Pulse, and my very first software was from Pulse. My dad was one of their very first customers in the world. And when I went to work at McPherson, I got to be the in-house expert on the Pulse software. And that is me working in Toronto on the Pulse software. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, that sounds familiar, Pulse, remember earlier when I showed you guys how we have the license agreement, the software that we install? That's because Pulse is the developer that we work with. Floriani software comes from Pulse, and they're the industry leader in creating embroidery software, and they make the most amazing Floriani software we could ever ask for. And here I am with Tass and Brian, the owners of Pulse Microsystems, in their office in Toronto, and I love working with them. So I've basically been working with Pulse software, for over 30 years. And here's a bunch of guys from their design team, solving some problem. What I think super cool about this picture is all the different plaques on the wall, because those are their patents. All the different technologies that they've patented over the years. And here's a more recent picture of me and Taz, and this is DJ Anderson. He is the man who works at Floriani that is responsible for developing the software. In other words, if you need help, if you request support, if you have a wish list, if you wish it did something, he's the one who can make that happen. He's the one who interfaces and creates our software, basically. Him, and of course Walter and everybody at RNK Distributing, but this is DJ's specific role in the company. And now we've got me again with my good old buddy Walter. But I first met Walter in 1989. He came to Calgary, Alberta for the Imprinted Sportswear show, and me and my dad were going to the show to shop for embroidery machines or whatever it was, and Walter was teaching a class. And back in those days, that was revolutionary to be teaching. Everybody learned in their own time by trial and error, and the last thing anybody wanted to do is share their knowledge. That was in the corporate world. It was like playing poker with your knowledge. You kept it all tight to your chest, and here was this guy, So anyway, my dad says, you should take his class. And by this time, I'd been digitizing for many, many years. And I, like most young adults, figured I knew everything there was to know. But I agreed to take the class. And I can't tell you how happy I am I did, because what I'm sure many of you have found out is Walter's just an amazing person to meet. He's a wonderful speaker, and he had such an eloquent way of explaining the things that I had been learning. A lot of the things Walter shared, I had learned, and it was very rewarding to hear him share them in such a way that was easy to understand. And he had his theories of embroidery that he shared, and I learned so much from Walter. And I joined his club. He had a club. It was called the Fun Club, the Floriani United Network for Embroidery Education. This is like 20 years before Facebook, you guys. Walter was revolutionary, and I joined his club, and this is me and Walter at a Floriani Fun Club event. We're in Las Vegas, which is why there's a beer on stage. And there's more fun pictures from this day that I promise to share sometime when I've got Walter with me in class. There may have been a hairy legs contest that afternoon. But Walter and I have known each other for many years. I never knew I was going to work, with Floriani software, but he was just a friend, a guy that I knew. And at that event was Walter and his dad, Walter Sr., and me and my dad, me and George, and we met the Florianis, and so he was just a friend, known him for years. We would see him at different shows, and this is now here he's got his brand new. This is me and Walter, and he's showing me the brand new Floriani software, and he was so excited to have that new software to bring to the world and share his knowledge. And here's me and Walter, more recent picture. Well, a little more less recent. My hair got shorter since then, but and here's me and Walter and Mr. DJ Anderson in Knoxville, Tennessee at their head office. And this is Mr. Ricky and Kay Brooks. And I can't tell you what an amazing couple these people are and what they've done for the embroidery industry. But they were selling sewing machines in the 1990s. And when the very first embroidery machines came on the market, they recognized that the home sewers were going to be very different from the commercial embroiderers, because they were going to sew on things that nobody had ever tried sewing on before. They were going to embroider on wood, anything. And they realized that there was going to be a huge need for stabilizers and threads to give successful embroidery results. And they started RNK Distributing, and Ricky is an amazing salesman and certainly a fantastic business partner, but let's be honest, Kay Brooks is a stabilizer genius, and they work together to create the most amazing products that we take for granted and use in our little embroidery spice cabinet every day. And I call it the embroidery spice cabinet because my friend Walter told a story once about how he believed that everybody should have all of the types of stabilizers there were, because they were the spices of your cooking. And, we all may have different recipes. We all make lasagna, and we might make wonderful lasagna, but we might use different ingredients. And for the world's greatest chef to say all they need was salt and pepper was like the world's greatest embroiderer saying all they were going to need was cutaway and tearaway. And there were specialty products that people like Walter and Ricky and Kay work together to develop, and we use them every day and take them for granted. But these guys, anyway, again, I've been friends with Ricky and Kay for many years, and I didn't know I was going to be working with them, but I'm proud to say that today I do. I'm good friends with Mr. and Ricky and Kay Brooks. I've been to their office, got right on the ground and worked with them. I teach how to use their software, and I love teaching with the Floriani software. And I love sewing with their thread and their stabilizer. So I can't say thank you enough to Ricky and Kay Brooks and Walter Floriani for the wonderful products that they developed and for the wonderful opportunities that I've had for working with them and training people about their software. And there's so many fantastic people that you meet with Floriani and RNK Distributing, like the beautiful Miss Alex Anderson, of course, who is responsible for the new Quilter Select product line and all of her very interesting and creative products that you'll find in the Quilter Select line. And certainly I love getting to know Alex a little bit better, and Martha Poland, oh, she's just a gem, and I've known Martha for many, many years, and I just love to see her, and I'm so happy to see her now attending different Floriani events. And this is me and Miss Martha Poland. I think this is one of the first pictures I had with her back when I attended one of her Love to Learn schools, many, many moons ago. Of course, we've got Hope Yoder, who is just so much fun, and the queen of digital cutting and the craft and cut software and the Quilter Select craft and cut software. And if you don't know Hope, you've got to visit Hope Yoder and visit her website, hopeyoder.com, for her embroidery designs and products. And this is me and all of the different Floriani staff, and we just have so much fun, and I can't tell you how proud I am to know each and every one of these educators and have worked with almost all of them now. And it's such a treasure to go to their special events, and I'm sure many of you recognize lots of these different people from the events that you get to attend. And so anyway, I love them all. And yes, that really is Miss Tanya, our sales manager, wearing a lampshade on her head at the event because we have that much fun. But anyway, Angel and Debbie and Cookie and Paula, Debbie and Shanae and DJ and Kathy, Catherine, Judy, Mark, Beth, Darlene, Clarissa, and Marty. I love you guys all, and thank you so much for your wonderful support. And yeah. Anyhow, when you visit my website, or the next time you attend a Floriani event, consider joining Trevor Conquergood and Friends Embroidery Club. This is where I share not so much about how to create embroidery designs, but embroidery in general, I guess. It's me and my friends, and certainly all of the Floriani educators are people that I would call friends and hope to record with. But you'll see that I have wonderful friends like Celine Ross from École de Couture in Montreal, or Maggie Cooper, who lives from England, and Kimberly Deemert in California, people that contribute to my class on a regular basis with beautiful and creative embroidery projects. You'll love that. Check out Embroidery Club. And of course the Floriani workshop. So I promised to show you guys some pictures before I'm going to let you go now, but I'm just going to go through in no particular order, and I'm not even sure how I put this list together other than I have a bunch of pictures of designs that are from workshop 1, 2, and maybe one design that'll be for workshop number 3, but and in no order, because this is like part of workshop number 2 right here, the studying blending colors together, and the different types of studies that we do. We learn about thread and how to layer it and all of the most important principles of an embroidery design, you know, because you can't create a beautifully shaded rose without understanding stitch length and density. You know, unless you want to create something that's overly dense, we need to learn to open our spaces to allow for layers of thread. And that's just an example of you know, not everybody wants to create a beautiful rose like that. And that's not what the class is only about. Yes, we create embroidery, but we learn to use all the tools of the software, the font importer, the text tools. I do reviews of the basic tools in every single class. I would say that every class has something for people of all skill levels. That's the way I try to approach them, and we have fun, and I like to challenge people with different artwork and different techniques, everything from, you know, freestanding embroidery to red work, creating motifs, your own custom motifs like we did in this I love this little star dot motif that we designed and then used to create these different effects and sashiko designs. Again, we actually had a motif challenge in workshop number 1 where people created motifs and shared them with the class, and we learned from each other. It's very fun when we do things like that. This is a rose that I did in a sketch style. This is actually the one part that's going to be on your workshop number 3 DVD, where we're talking about doing kind of freehand sketching embroidery and the subway art designs and how much fun you can have with the Floriani lettering and even small lettering, and how can you get them to look so good when that letter A right there is only 3 millimeters tall, you know. And so we talk about how to get lettering to look good when they're really small, and how to do everything, you know, create graffiti, halo artwork, puffy foam, mylar. We've done everything. Created fringe. In the first 2, people are where are you going to do next, Trevor? Trust me, we have so much that we can learn. Once you learn how the software works, if you really love to create embroidery, that's where workshop number 2 and number 3 are for. You know, workshop number 1 is great for people that are getting started, and it'll teach you to create embroidery. But if you find that you love creating embroidery and you want to do more and more of it, that's where workshop number 2 and going forward number 3 and in the future, you know, I love to share my knowledge about creating embroidery, and that's what we do in class. So certainly hope that this is interesting to you. I will be more than happy to have new members join for FTCU workshop number 1. The most recent thing in workshop number 2 is the Baby Animal Challenge. I shared these different images with everybody and asked everybody to create an embroidery design, and so far these are ones that I made in class, and we'll have a little challenge review class at the end of workshop number 2. But that's what I prepared for you guys for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed sharing about myself as much as I do sharing about the FTCU software. So thanks for listening if you stick all the way to the end. Now I'm just getting a little message saying my audio connection has been lost and it's reconnecting. So the people who are still attending live may be just waiting to hear if I'm going to come back on or not. It's like it becomes I'm pretty sure it'll be, I'm not going to be, there'll be no break in the recording. It's the, yeah, it says it's been reestablished. So I'll just re-say what I just said. I was just saying goodbye to everybody and thanking everybody for coming. When my network connection said that it had been kind of delayed, and so I just wanted to say to everybody, thanks so much for attending. I certainly hope you enjoyed today's class. I will send a copy of it to the members of FTCU workshop number 1, and if you ever need to receive a copy of it and you're part of workshop number 1, just send me an email and I can always send you a new link if you missed it somehow. Otherwise, I'm going to post this on my website. If you're looking for a copy of this class, just visit the sunsetstitches.com website. I don't have it on my screen anymore, but it's sunsetstitches.com. And go to the Floriani workshop, Getting Started, and I will post the live recording of this class and any other classes in this Getting Started series. I will post to this page, so that can be your place to check on that. In the meantime, do you have anything to add, Mum?
No, it was a really good class, and I love seeing the oldie goldie history information that you posted. And there's lots of the people that are attending today that are texting. Thank you very much for the class.
Good. Well, they're very welcome. And thanks, you were a very well-behaved class. Thank you very much. Okay, well, on that note, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you very much for attending. Until next time. Oh, by the way, there will be, when I do have a new date for a new Getting Started class, I will post it to that very same website on my sunsetstitches.com. So just check that page for anything in future updates for these Getting Started special classes. All right, on that note, have a great day. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.